The story begins with a soldier carrying a child in a ruined area. We then switch to seeing a woman sitting in a car with her eyes closed. As an explosion happens in the wrecked location, she wakes up, depicting it was just a dream. The woman's name is Liz. Her daughter Audrey soon enters the car, and they start driving. Eventually, they arrive at a house that's recently been sold. Upon seeing it, Audrey says she liked their old one. A woman named Sandra is there to greet them with enthusiasm. It contrasts with Audrey's complete lack of this emotion. When all three of them are inside the new house, Sandra tells Liz she is very sorry about Jason. But this is a topic Liz would rather not get into. Quickly diverting the conversation, Sandra continues with her upbeat attitude to present the house. Later, Liz eats Chinese food with Audrey. The girl asks her mother if she really has to go to school tomorrow because she wants to stay home for one day. That is a luxury Liz does not allow her to have. Audrey says she hates the new place and would prefer it if they lived with her grandparents. She thinks they always knew what to do. Liz responds by giving her daughter a fortune cookie. She opens the message she received in hers. Her message states she will meet a tall stranger, a possibility Audrey considers lame. The girl's fortune reads that hidden secrets will be revealed to her. Eventually, the two head off to bed. As she sleeps, Liz has a dream of the soldier again. His face is covered with blood, and the moment he opens his eyes, she awakens in a panic. The poor lady has to take a pill to calm herself. In the morning, Audrey attends her first day of school with her mom. The girl notices a nun standing in the hallway, looking at her. Liz briefly talks to a teacher, who assures the former not to worry. They will take good care of Audrey. Back home, Liz uses this precious time to unpack the boxes and decorate her new house. Among the first items she takes out is a framed photo of the soldier she dreams about. We come to understand he was her husband Jason. Looking at the photo, she resorts to drinking alcohol. Then she places 3 framed photos in an area. The one in the middle is the one with Jason. She continues to drown her grief with alcohol while she unpacks the boxes. As she rests on the couch, she gets awakened by an ominous whisper. But nothing bad comes of it. At a different hour, Sandra arrives for the housewarming with wine, exactly what Liz needs more of. Sandra compliments her on how she decorated the place. Afterward, she approaches Audrey and sees her drawing a war-related picture with her father in it. Soon she informs Liz that she has a date with a doctor. She also advises her to have some mother-daughter time with Audrey before she leaves. Liz walks over to her daughter, and the girl says her drawing scared Sandra. She shows it to her mom, and Liz notices that it resembles what she witnesses in her dreams. Audrey also included herself in her drawing with a boy named Caleb, who is new in school just like she is. In a short time, Liz spots her staring out the window in a somewhat odd way. When she walks away from it, her reflection eerily stays behind. At night, Liz has another dream about Jason. With blood spewing from his mouth, he says he needs help. Liz wakes up in a panic again, resorting to take another pill. Following this, we get a flashback of her being intimate with Jason. He is telling her a joke that involves broccoli being absent in a grocery store. She remembers this while she jogs outside. The man tells Liz that he loves her, and she says those words back to him. Needless to say, this memory makes her sad. When she returns home, she enters Audrey's room. There is a drawing on the girl's table of her praying with her mother. Next, she takes out a box that contains photos. One of them is of Jason in his uniform. Taking out his dog tags, Liz can't hold back her tears. At school, Audrey is kicking a soccer ball with Caleb beside her. Liz arrives to pick her up and sees the girl running after the ball, having accidentally kicked it in the wrong location. So Liz decides to chase her too, feeling playful. The girl tells her that Caleb isn't coming up. This causes Liz to start looking for him. She enters the basement, where the atmosphere turns somewhat sinister. It gets worse due to her inability to locate the boy there. She has to use her phone light to continue the search in a dark area. It doesn't take long for a man to scare her from behind. He is huge and intimidating. We are reminded of the message in her fortune cookie, telling her she will meet someone tall. Once Liz asks him if he saw a little boy, he does not answer her and merely stares. He enters the dark area she's shown her light into when she leaves. Rejoining Audrey, Liz tells her she could not find Caleb. The door to the basement suddenly shuts behind her at this moment. One of Audrey's teachers, Howard Stonewall, draws near and Liz informs him of what happened. He wants to set up a time to meet, and they agree on Friday. The man tries to open the basement door after Liz goes home with Audrey, but the door is locked. At home, Liz casually chats with Sandra over wine. The latter says she sold Howard his house. She also comments on how smart and single he is. Changing the topic, Sandra wants to know how Liz is feeling. She says she is fine, yet she isn't. The single mother admits the situation is hard. Sandra wishes she would have met Jason. Subsequently, Liz is checking Audrey's homework in the girls' room. As she does, Audrey asks if her dad is truly deceased. Her mom confirms that he is, and Audrey asks why she can sometimes hear him if he is. Liz tells her, some people believe that loved ones can talk to them from heaven. She is curious to know what he tells their daughter, and Audrey shares that he talks about loving them. Interestingly, he's also told her not to talk to the bad man anymore. Of course, Liz is curious to know who is deserving of such a title. She learns it's the janitor who took the soccer ball. Audrey shares he does not like kids very much. Plus, she thinks there is something wrong with him. Liz acknowledges that Audrey should listen to her father and stay away from the basement. Then they both kneel at opposite sides of the girl's bed to say a prayer. Howard gets included in the prayer, as does Sandra. Audrey goes to bed wearing her father's dog tags. The next day in school, the teacher Faye talks to Liz. She says she heard about the incident yesterday in the basement, but Liz claims it wasn't an incident. She informs the teacher of what she was doing down there, something Faye believes is impossible because the basement door is always locked. The teacher's disbelief prompts Liz to tell her with a gruff attitude that the door was completely open. Afterward, Liz and Audrey enter a church. When the girl kneels in front of lit candles, a priest sees her. He exits his office to sit on a bench opposite Liz. He starts by asking what took her so long. Liz considers this to be a strange question. Soon he whispers that they have been expecting. The priest introduces himself as Felix Connolly and welcomes Liz to their community. He asks if there is anything they can do to help her settle in. She starts by sharing that her husband lost his life in Afghanistan. Additionally, she thinks she might be doing emotional to her daughter by moving away from her previous home. Felix assures her that children are very resilient. He doubts she is doing permanent damage to Audrey. When Liz mentions having nightmares about Jason, Felix tells her it's very common for the bereaved to experience that. According to him, it's the mind trying to make sense of something that can never make sense. The priest wants to know if Jason ever says anything in her dreams. Liz mentions that he tries. It's like she is there with him in the war zone. Being an experienced priest who has witnessed many such conditions, Felix says this is normal and they can discuss these matters tomorrow. The man ends their time together by standing near her to say a prayer. At night, she dreams of Jason again with his face covered in blood. He tries to speak, but she wakes up. Liz follows this by taking a pill with some wine. Hearing faint sounds, she slowly walks in their direction. As she looks out the window, she observes a nun standing outside, looking at her. Thus, Liz directs herself to her and demands for the nun to get off her property. With an ominous voice, the nun replies that secrets must be kept. Then Jason appears near Liz, telling her cryptically that she should help them. In a few seconds, he vanishes along with the nun. Later, Liz arrives at school to talk to Faye. She is angry, asking the teacher why she sent school personnel to threaten her. However, Faye has a hard time understanding what this is concerning. Liz retorts that Sister Beatrice was outside her house. Interestingly, Faye discloses that this school does not have any nuns among the staff. The school hasn't employed clergy in over 50 years. Soon Faye calls and the school janitor Dobbs. She asks if the man had the basement door open any time on the day Liz ventured into it. The janitor claims it was never open. Seeing him, Liz says she was referring to the other, much larger janitor, who she describes. After Faye sends Dobbs away, she informs Liz that he is their only janitor. Confused, Liz narrates what happened on that day, perhaps to herself. At this moment, Faye shares another interesting fact with. There is no one named Caleb enrolled in the school. Faye claims to know all of the students. Liz cannot believe this and leaves. In the hallway, she notices a photo of about 12 nuns. The next scene has her talking with Felix. He tells her the photo of the nuns is from 1957. She tells him that neither she nor her daughter imagined the janitor, Caleb, or the nun. The priest replies that when someone has suffered like she has, it's not unusual to have hallucinations. Regarding grief, there is no way out but through. One has to process it eventually. Liz takes a seat, asking him why would her daughter hallucinate about the same thing. The man becomes stumped at such a question. He doesn't know how to answer it. She asks if he can look through the school records to see if Beatrice is employed anywhere. She also wants him to conduct the same search for Caleb. The troubled lady wants to rule out that she and Audrey are insane. Looking at her, Felix says with sincerity that she is not crazy. To show her appreciation, Liz invites him for dinner the next day. After she leaves, he keeps staring at the photo of the nuns she brought to him. Later, Liz wakes up at home on her couch. Jason appears before her in his military uniform. He asks for a hug, so she gives him one. While she is kissing him, she soon notices his face is covered with blood and gets scared. When he repeats for her to help in unspecified them, she wakes up in her bed. The poor lady starts crying before Audrey comes to her. The girl correctly guesses her mom had a nightmare involving her dad. She also says she can feel him watching over them. Liz feels it too. At the meeting with Howard, Liz hears nothing except compliments regarding Audrey from him. The only problem is that she isn't sociable with the other kids. Liz remarks she has always been an introvert. In the meantime, Audrey sits outside, talking to Caleb. He asks her what comics she likes, and she tells him, but he's never heard of the one she named. His favorite is Batman. In a short time, the boy sees a nun in the distance. Seeing her makes him say he does not like comics. He is afraid of getting punished by her, yet his friend assures him the nun can't punish him. Returning to the adults, Liz informs Howard that her daughter has made friends with one student, Caleb. Like Faye, Howard is not familiar with him. Liz tells them that Audrey is talking to him outside right now. When he checks to verify her words, he just sees the girl. Liz explains Caleb's absence, saying that he probably left recently. Later, Felix arrives at Liz's house with a bottle of wine as a gift. He sees Audrey for the first time, and the girl asks if he's there to tell the angry people to go away. Looking at her new drawing, the priest asks if the ones she drew are those people. She nods her head before telling him they don't want them there. After dinner, Liz asks Felix what it was like to be a tanker, because he mentioned being one earlier. He starts talking about his experience in Iraq, detailing it in a way that could bring images of the moments to the listener's mind. About 1 week in, something came out of the desert that started stalking them. Whatever it was, it left no track, but they could feel it moving in the shadows. It was making noises like garbled voices on the radio. All Felix knows is it wasn't human. He was as close to pure evil as he had ever been. Perhaps the scariest part was that it followed him home. He takes out some papers from an envelope and tells Liz she will need more wine. Sitting closer to the priest, she is curious to see what he has. He informs her there truly was a Sister Beatrice employed in the school from 1945 to 1958. She passed away in 5 years, which surprises Liz. It happened in a psychiatric hospital, prompting Liz to question how this is possible. The man also shares that 2 young boys vanished near the school in 1957, and a janitor was involved in their disappearance. This incident brought the school to a close for 2 years. Beatrice was transferred to a diocese across the country. Alas, the 2 boys were never located. Liz asks Felix if the janitor was a big man. He shows her a photo of him, saying he was very tall and weighed 350 pounds. He had a behavioral disorder. Liz recognizes him as the one she encountered in the basement. His name was Andrew, and he was admitted to a hospital where he lost his life in 1970. Felix also shows her a photo of Beatrice, whom Liz recognizes too. The third photo presented is one of Caleb, who had a twin brother. With all this information laid out, the priest congratulates Liz for dredging up a mystery from 60 years ago, while being new in town. Once Felix leaves, Audrey is there to say that her father told her Felix is poking at a hornet's nest. They could have simply left, but now they have to finish what they started. The girl shuts her door in frustration. At a different time, we observe Audrey drawing in her room. The nun is there too, standing beside the girl. Feeling her presence, Audrey turns to the side, but sees no one there. Our attention falls on the unsettling drawing. Later, in the kitchen, Audrey tells her mom she likes Felix, partly because he reminds the girl of her grandfather. On this topic, she says she misses her grandparents, a statement Liz agrees with. When Audrey says she misses her dad, her mother becomes emotional. Soon the girl turns around to firmly express she wants to go home. She cannot accept this house over their previous one. Her dad tells her they can't go until they finish their duty. Afterward, Liz comes into her room and admits that perhaps it wasn't fair for her to move them to this location. While Audrey sleeps, Caleb wakes her up. His twin is also there, telling them they must go. So all 3 of them exit the house to escape Beatrice. Switching to Liz, she wakes up to witness the nun in her room. She uses her otherworldly power to keep Liz in bed. Even her scream is made mostly soundless. When the nun disappears, Liz can move again. She goes into the washroom and sees Jason there. This time, she fearfully asks him what he wants. Her deceased husband needs her to be strong, but she tells him she needs him, before pushing the man away in frustration. A sharp knock comes on the door from Felix. Approaching it, she lets him in. The priest instantly asks if her daughter is okay. Unknowingly, Liz tells him a lie, that Audrey is sleeping. However, she tells him the truth of how Beatrice was there to hold her down in bed. She thinks she is going crazy. Yet Felix believes her, for he saw the nun at church. He has arrived with more information regarding this matter. Beatrice's father, he says, was an important man. He was a big donor to the church. The nun's original name was Sarah Hurst, and disturbingly, she gave birth to Andrew with her help. It explains why she was determined to defend Andrew after the twins vanished. The big man could not defend himself, due to someone having severed his. While Beatrice was in the hospital, she stole a knife to carve many Bible verses into herself. She perished in 2 days. Since Andrew was never baptized, he is a lost soul. Soon Liz sees Jason walking, and follows him into Audrey's room, where she learns of her daughter's absence. When Liz looks at the unsettling drawing on her bed, Jason whispers that their daughter needs her. Thus, she rushes back to Felix to share the situation with him. The duo realizes what place they should search for her, as Liz holds Audrey's other drawing of the church. Arriving there, Felix wants Liz to stay outside as he enters his church. There, he sees Audrey being held by Andrew. Beatrice is also present, telling the priest that someone has been disclosing their secrets. Felix walks toward her and starts reciting a prayer in Latin. This makes her recite her own prayer in the same language. Meanwhile, Liz enters to witness what is going on. The nun throws powerful words at the priest who opposes her, causing him to move back, but he gets up to continue his recital. In the meantime, Liz tries to reason with Andrew about what he did. She says he did not mean to take the lives of the twins. It was his mother who made him do it. Plus, she severed his. Liz manages to convince Andrew to let go of her daughter. Soon Beatrice silences Felix like she did with Liz, and brings him to his knees. Black smoke exits Andrew, before the big man vanishes. Following this, Liz yells out Beatrice's original name, Sarah, which forces the nun to turn to her. This allows Felix to regain himself and use his crucifix to continue his verbal battle. As he speaks, Liz repeats his holy words to add extra damage to the evil nun. After Felix delivers the final powerful words, Beatrice disappears spectacularly. Due to their victory, the twins reappear. The next scene shows the police at the church. Felix informs Liz there were 2 skeletons discovered in the crawl space behind the altar. They are the skeletons of the long-time deceased twins. In the final scene, we see Liz granting Audrey her wish, the duo moving out of the house. As Sandra is leaving, Felix arrives. Liz tells him how a wise man once told her that there is no way out but through. Of course, it was he who told her these words. The priest gifts her with the cross he used to defeat Beatrice, and says it served him well. When she thanks him, he thanks her back and walks away. During the closing credits, we watch Liz driving with Audrey back to their previous home.